and welcome. It's me, Percita, and this is Percita's Paradox. So here we are today talking about something that I think is a little touchy. We get a little emotional about it. Everyone sees it different, but I want to touch it today. And what that is the difference between being lonely and alone. The crazy part about when I say those two words is that even when I say them, I have to stop and clarify them in my head, because I think that most of us believe that they're one and the same. And I'm going to say, I do not believe off the top that they're one and the same, but it also comes from a very specific type of foundation that a person would have in making that statement. And what I mean by that foundation is that typically the person who understands what I just said, or I won't even say fully agrees, but who can kind of comprehend the angle or the perspective that I'm using, is more of a spiritual based person or a spiritual person. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times in our lives, we make decisions based on the fact that we just don't want to be alone. We don't want to be in a space where we feel like we're existing or moving through life and we don't have life experiences to share. Now, I don't take lightly of that, and I don't really come from the perspective of everybody should be married or everybody shouldn't be married or any one particular angle, meaning there's no extremes in my life. I've been married a very long time, and in that long time, there has been plenty of times where we have separated and grew apart and have basically done all kinds of crazy things. I'm in my mid-40s, and to have been married, let's just say 25 years, would give you an idea of the differences in what we've had to endure and what we've had to address in our relationship. Now, I don't believe that either one of us came into the relationship healed or whole. We were super young, and had different experiences and different expectations that we weren't always able to express, nor did we have many examples. So a lot of what we went through specifically was in growing to, one, know who we were individually, to then try to come back to be in a relationship. So I give you all of that background to let you know where I'm coming from in regards to the statement. It is very complicated in my life now because I have situations where family members have divorced from relationships and marriages, friendships, all kinds of stuff. And they're in their, I would call, second degree of relationship. The issue I see in a lot of that relationship interaction with the new person is this disdainment for what happened in the past and this fear of recreating it in the new. And what I have tried to express is that you still see the exact same thing you saw in the last relationship because the person hasn't actually healed, nor did they acknowledge or change the discrepancies that they carried individually in that relationship. So when we start talking about being alone or lonely, then you start to get into a position of what is really the difference between lonely and alone. To me, when we say it, to be lonely is really based on the emotional side of wanting that interaction that I just discussed. Some type of a spouse, some type of a life partner, whatever it is you want to call the person. That is very different from being alone. And what I mean by being alone is that I don't really know truthfully if any of us can really say that we're alone at any given place. Because go back to that foundation thing, if you have a spiritual foundation, then you know that you are not alone. You might not feel like you're with someone physically, so then you become lonely, but you are not alone. We also have physical people in our lives that maybe we just don't want to interact with anymore, who could still fill the void of alone, right? So it's like there's plenty of times in our lives where we'll go through something and we're like, and I did that all alone because no one was there to help me and I had no support system. You kind of are your own support system. So unless you don't exist, then you really can't be alone, right? I mean, it's kind of tricky And you might say, like, you're stretching it, Percita, you really reaching, and maybe I am. But what I'm trying to express is that we can't always use that as an excuse to make bad decisions, right? So what I mean by bad decisions is that I think we do things based on the premise that we get alone and lonely convoluted in our heads. When you are lonely, it doesn't mean that you're alone. And when you are alone, it doesn't mean that you're lonely. So there's plenty of people in the world. Let's just try to break that down. There's plenty of people in the world who really love to do everything from an introverted perspective. They like themselves. They enjoy themselves. They travel by themselves. They go to the movies by themselves. They just enjoy themselves, right? Some would say, well, aren't you lonely when you do that? Because, I could never do that. I would never want to do any of those things by myself. To each their own, right? To each their own. But in the exact same perspective, that doesn't make it right or wrong. It just makes it a state. And usually that person has a spiritual base, a grounding to understand that they're not alone, nor lonely. They're in a very neutral, compressed energy space, meaning they love themselves enough that they don't really need anything else at that particular moment. Can they ever become lonely? Of course, anyone can. It's just, it is what it is. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that is the state that everyone's in at every particular juncture of that alone to lonely. At the same time, I know people who are married in relationships, completely encompassed in their children and everything else in life, whatever religious activity or sport or whatever, and they're still lonely. And some might say, well, that's flip it impossible. They have the people that lonely would basically say that you don't have when you're saying that you're lonely. But that has nothing to do with being lonely. It simply means that even within all of that, they don't feel comfortable. They don't feel like they are able to be themselves or whatever else they say. There's a plethora, can't even say the word today, of reasons as to why they would feel what they're feeling. But catch what I'm saying, it's a feeling. And the beauty of feeling and emotions is that they're fleeting. So they change with the wind. If you really want to know if you are lonely, sit there for a second and really figure out if you are and why you are. Because sometimes it's simply that you're not interacting and you're not really being true to self in order to build yourself so that you're never alone nor lonely. Because alone means that you are able to be within yourself. And to not be lonely means that you can entertain and subject yourself to your energy to be bigger than itself in order to actually entertain yourself. Little crazy, I know. But I find it interesting that so many people that are in their late 40s, 50s, 60s, that are maybe in their, I would like to call a second tier of their life and in new relationships, they're still making the same decisions based off of whatever they've been in. So they're making decisions and settling because they don't want to be alone. And then I say, are you feeling alone or are you feeling lonely? Because both of those are feelings and they're both fleeting, but they're all, or I should say both based on you and you alone. So I am just proposing today that before you make the conscious statement of you're alone and you're doing everything by yourself alone, or I'm lonely because I don't have anyone to share things with, or I don't want to grow old and be by myself, or my all-time favorite, I have all this stuff going on, but yet no one's listening to me, so I feel alone and lonely even within the minutia of life. You have to really ask yourself, what is going on with you specifically? Do you have a spiritual foundation? Are you in a position where you can actually move the way you see fit? Do you like yourself? Are you self-loving and self-caring? What is happening in your life? It's crucial, absolutely crucial for you to figure those things out before you can tag an actual name to what you're thinking you're feeling. Now, I will admit it is extremely complicated to really hone in on what that feeling is. And remember, you may feel it today and it completely go away tomorrow or within a week or within a month. So I don't want you as a whole to make decisions in that time frame. Don't make decisions about your career. Don't make decisions about your relationships. Don't make decisions whatsoever until you actually have honed in on exactly what it is that you are feeling that you're feeling. Catch that? So when I say alone is very different for people who have a foundation, it's simply because that foundation allows you to always remember you're not alone and you're not in a position where you're ever doing things by yourself and you're not having a support system and you're not being in a position where you can call on someone. Everyone has someone. And I know that that's hard to say because so many people go, Percita, everybody doesn't have someone and, maybe they are walking this earth and they're by themselves. I'm just going to say, I find it hard to really believe. It might be someone or something that you don't want to deal with, or something or someone that you've had words with or interactions with that are so negative that you never want to go back to that person. But I would just say it's almost impossible to not have someone, even if it's just someone who's not related or someone who just knows who you are. There is always someone for someone, right? So that's very complicated if you really don't feel that and you really feel as if everything is against you and you are alone. When you're feeling lonely, then it becomes a position of you physically want someone there with you to actually live through life, make decisions with, and build a relationship. But even that can become a little tricky because you have to ask yourself, why are you feeling that way? Is there some sense of inadequacy within you that you don't feel like you're enough? Do you feel as if you deserve something or someone to be with you? What is going on? There is something happening that makes the loneliness take over. And it could be just in the society that we live in of comparison. Everything that we do is in sense of comparison, from videos that we shoot to the pictures that we post to the lifestyle that we live, be it inside or outside of your means. It's all based on some type of an expectation that you feel like people should believe about you. Like, there's a philosopher who actually a sociologist who said, I believe what you believe about me. That's what I think about myself. So it's like, I think what you think about me is more important than what I actually am. So it's more of a looking a certain way or trying to allude to a certain thing or success or something in life that makes it very complicated. So I just want to share that today to go, we all have gone through it. I know that there was a phase in my life where every move I made was based on what people would think and how it would come across and what they would say and what they would believe or not believe about me. But that all comes from a background of complete aloneness and not understanding that I was not alone. And then feeling lonely because I wanted people to like me, but I didn't like me. So it's very hard to sell something that you don't actually like, right? Just imagine a salesperson trying to sell a product to you and they don't particularly care for the product. It's almost impossible for them to sell it unless they are a really good liar and can really make that happen. But typically, you can see it within the person. So I'm really talking slow and trying to hope that you really grasp that this is really big in society right now. The socialization is not what it could or should be. We use social media and social media platforms and texting and, FaceTiming and all of this non-touch environment, this faceless communication. We use it against ourselves. And I think it's just drawing people to a very negative, low place. And what I'm hoping today is that we just ponder when you're feeling something that you take the time to really figure out what it is. Not just, oh, okay, well, that person pissed me off. Why was that person able to piss you off? Why were you in a position where you felt the way you felt? How much of that was contributing to what you brought to the table, and how much was that someone else? It's easier to move through life when you can own what's yours and push away what is not yours. So to live life authentic, which is what you hear me continuously speak, is a continuousness of you constantly asking yourself a series of questions that perpetuates you to understand yourself. We're not trying to understand other people. We're not trying to care if other people believe in what we believe in. We're trying to figure out what we believe in. Like, what do you believe? I can tell you what I believe. I can even tell you what I think you should believe. But the truth is at the end of the day, at the end of your lifespan, at the end of this video, you need to know what you believe. So that is what we're talking about. That is what we're going to continue to talk about. We're going to really touch in deeply on this faceless communication society that we live in and what the effects are and what people are really feeling. So today we are really focusing on alone and lonely. Alone and lonely. We really want to know what is the difference between the two and have a complete grasp on not making decisions when you're feeling that way, when you're stressed out, when you're angry, when you're, anywhere near upset or feeling belittled. You do not want to make decisions. Those are times that you just don't. Take it from me. Can't give you specifics because this is a public forum. And I'm not trying to be that transparent right now, but take it from me. You do not want to do that in those time frames. You want to make sure your head is clear, that you are not in any obligation to blame anyone for any negative or positive that happens in your life. You're standing on your own two faithful feet, and you're able to tell yourself what it is you want and how you want it and how you're going to get it. Okay? So, said a lot today, mouthful, more than I wanted to, but I get very passionate about it because I see it so often, and it breaks my heart to see people knowing and telling me one thing and completely doing something different simply because they feel like, but Percita, I don't want to be alone, and I don't want to feel lonely anymore. So my heart goes out to you. Understand that I am absolutely thinking about you, and I really want you to ponder what I'm saying today. So, as always, thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate your time. Please like, share, comment, absolutely subscribe. Absolutely give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down, whatever it is you want to do, but make sure that you're interacting and if nobody else is there for you and you feel like that, know that I'm here for you. As always, have a wonderful day. Thank you guys so much for just always supporting me. And remember, do those three things. Live life authentic. Thank you again so much. I'll see you Thursday. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.